to talk about, and maybe we could thoughts that I think I hear questions out. So like some of the kids are asked me really cute picture of Gretchen holding an iPad and right on the iPad screen, and really confused by that picture. First of all, Gretchen is adorable in the little clothes she's wearing. And then
I think you have it on your website too.
Yes, probably so. Yeah, kids just can't quite figure that one out. So it's a conversation starter. So I like that about it. And so if I look to them like, oh, so that's like on the, and then it makes sense to them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to talk about on the cover, which actually we didn't even talk about in episodes. And by the way, while I'm thinking of it, if anybody's just watching this one for the first time, there are other episodes on the website, hop, skip, and a jump ahead.com. And so we talk about the characters from the story, different characters. So there's 6 episodes. 4 of them are uploaded, 2 more than this one. So I hope go to the website and look at insights, reasons behind what the story, all kinds of been about as a therapist in wanting to include in the story. And then, of course, fun information about how you've designed some of the characters. But cover, study the cover, and they don't know what that is, of course, and they're very interested in it. And they, like, you can kind of see that because certainly it is unusual to see a dog dressed like that too. And then they're not quite sure, like, oh, that does look like a rocket ship, but again, a little bit non-traditional. So and then the landscape, of course, is different. So it is a very intriguing cover that generates lots of questions. And so it does allow me an opportunity to use it as a segue to get into the story.
Yeah, I wanted the cover to be kind of, I think the idea came from, number one, I think the idea came from we were trying to figure out the title for the book. And then I was just throwing around some ideas of what I wanted the background to look like. And I really like covers, and I get a lot of this from, Marvel Comics or DC Comics, no one was, growing up reading. And the cover is usually not something you find in the book. It's more of a mashup of elements from the book. And so this was kind of like that same idea. It's like it was kind of foreshadowing. It has all the characters in the book, and I wanted to kind of keep the like, what are the shadows? It's like, okay, so it's kind of suspenseful, and that we don't know what that is. And Joseph and Gretchen, they're ready to do battle, but they really don't do battle in the book. Well, at least Joseph does it physically. He's always in the spaceship, and you see Robojo in the background, or at least a hint of Robojo in the background. So yeah, it's just a mashup of everything that's in the book, just to create interest.
Yes. And then, of course, we've got something to be proud of on our cover now, an award from Reader's Favorite. And we also have the Mom's Choice Award. And one other one we have, I think those are listed on the back of the book now.
On the back. Yeah. I can change my background so we can see what that looks like, but I don't know if it's going to show, but it is down low.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's see if it works.
Oh, there they are at the very bottom. Yeah. So Certified Great Read, Purple Dragonfly, that's the other one. Mom's Choice Award.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to, we'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens. No, it's just the spaceship.
Which is a great background too.
I'm gonna keep that up.
Yeah, I like it. I hadn't thought about using that one before. So that's great. So let's move on.
Usually it would be down here.
Yeah,
I'm hiding it right now.
right at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people ask me sometimes, like, how did you books? And this was certainly not something that I ever aspired to. It was something that was unexpected for me. And it was a God to write this because I kept thinking, I wish someone knew how to portray what I do in my sessions. And I didn't feel like I had the words or knew how to do that. And then I realized, actually, I could do that. And so that's how this all started. And then I knew your wife a little bit, and she was the one who said, "Oh, my husband's an illustrator," which I didn't know. So that's how we connected. And you have a great background. Maybe you want to share a little bit about your background too.
Yeah. I've always been interested in, movies and animation, and ever since I was a kid, it's like I like to like challenge myself. I don't like it when you can't do something. It's like I need to kind of prove it to myself. So, one of my goals was to, work for an animation company. And I always thought I was going to be like an animator, but that never panned out. And there's so many people out there that are like way more talented in that respect. And but I knew I had it in me to do something artistic. And but yeah, so in the course of my multi-position career, I got into doing 3D, working for a water company. And so so it was working with AutoCAD as a draftsman, and that led to working in 3D because that was an Autodesk product. That led to working for a forensic animation firm. It was low, very small, doing accident reconstruction and to use in litigation purposes. And then from that, luckily, I had a good friend of mine who worked at DreamWorks. And so in talking with him, was able to get an interview and worked on the technology, got into DreamWorks, PDI DreamWorks in Redwood City, and working on the technology side. But working on the technology side, the benefit of that is I got to see everything. So I got to meet everyone, all these departments in animation, and a lot of departments, if anyone doesn't know, a lot of departments in making an animated film. And so there's, the front end, and the front end is just, layout and, pre-visualization and concept art that goes into, doing lighting and animation and effects and cleanup. And so I was fortunate to work with all those different departments working on the technology side. And I was able to, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm trying to think, but since I couldn't draw there in that capacity there, I was able to at least work with these artists and see what they were doing. So that kind of satisfied my butt a little bit, where I could learn from them by looking and, working in the company. I could see all the work that they were doing because we had meetings and I had full access to everything. I could just study and try to do my best to emulate what they were doing, even though my artwork would never be up on the screen. But I got to work on the How to Train Your Dragon, and Shrek, and not the original Shrek, but I think was like Shrek 3? Shrek 2? I forget. Madagascar 2 for sure. Yeah. And Megamind and there were a couple of more. Kung Fu Panda, I think it was. So, yeah. So I want to say I worked in the golden age of DreamWorks. I mean, sort of mid golden age, mid to late golden age, but so many amazing people that I was just able to learn from. And for me, I think if everything goes well, because I'll have your next book and they'll have 2 more done by, hopefully they'll be published by end of February or early March. Okay. So around there. So 3 books in 1 year. So that's a lot.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see the one with about the truck.
Yeah, that one's
the drawings, but the one about the truck, I love those drawings.
Yeah. So so your next book, Tijuana Mañana, The Anxious Iguana. So very different than what we've done here with Mission Control. And then the other book I've worked on is it's called Beyond the Junkyard. So it's a nice story about a little truck that kind of, I want to say, is kind of a little bit like me. It's like he has all these dreams and aspirations, and he doesn't want to be relegated to just sitting there watching everyone else do it. He wanted to do it. So he wanted to be a fire truck. He wanted to plow roads. He wants to deliver groceries and help people. So he's able to do that during the course of the story. So that's really a little bit of Pixar Cars feel to it a little bit, but a little simpler. Yeah, just and then the third one, I guess that's coming out next year, is called Pictures of Positive Penny, about a little girl who has 3 dog companions, and she's spreading positive or positivity out into our kind of grayish world. And so that's her little spark of light amongst everyone there. It's just kind of down in the dumps in their regular, routine day. And so she's able to bring, with the help of her cousin and her grandma. And so it's a nice little family story.
Oh, that sounds great too. And we could all use the recipients and the ones who give out that positivity. We all could benefit from that. And that's always one of the things in our books that we were talking about too, is leaving kids upbeat and feeling like they can do those things. So kids can be like Penny, kids can be like Joseph in this book, kids can be like Tijuana Mañana in the next book, and then some other books that are still coming out next year. It's going to be a banner year for me also, with all the books that I have coming out. But they're all meant to be, how can you grow from reading the book? And there are all kinds of benefits that we've talked about, some of them in our previous episodes. And there's so many reasons that books, the ones that you're talking about, the ones that I'm writing, the ones we've worked on together, that are really, really important for kids to have access to today. I was looking last night at mental health statistics for children, and it's so important because of that. I read that the safety for children is the number one. Mental health is a really huge safety issue for an institute that's top in the field of safety, and so I can't remember all the details, but teachers about the kids, parents are concerned about their kids. They see changes in their behaviors and their interactions with others and their mix, and we see scores, the reading scores are down, which is partly reason for Tijuana Mañana, to try to encourage kids, even though it might be hard, are ways to be able to do it. And that's what that book's about. So then the COVID has made a big impact, and we really are looking, I'm working hard to get the books out to kids, and I know you're working for different purposes for the same idea. Like, kids need positive messages. They need to know there's hope, and they need to know that there are ways to, well, one of the things that I use this book for, and to some degree some of the other books also, is to help kids struggling with things like going to bed like Joseph, but also with sibling rivalry issues, and with motivating themselves in writing activity, and being able to do that. Where do they get the perseverance to do that, the endurance to do that, the grit? And also, like, it's addressing following rules, not just with what the teacher's asking or the thing, but playing a game with peers. And one of the other kinds of things that comes up a lot in my social skills groups, we talk about these kinds of things a lot, is when someone asks you to stop, can you stop? Can you understand what the message is and the implications of stopping someone asks you to, and not stopping when someone asks you to? And what can you do? There's options. You can stop, or you can get help and say, I really want to stop. Can you help me figure out what to do? Somebody has to help some of the kids know how to handle those things. And Joseph, as a model for something like that, is one of the ways that I help kids learn about using self-control. And and then also on my website, there are pictures. You created a gallery for us that has all things that kids have done that show that the messages are sinking in. So one of my favorites is a boy went home on his own and got a bunch of paper towel tubes and made Robojo out of paper towels, tubing, and taped it all together. So it looked just like Robojo, and he brought it to show to me. He was so proud. And other kids go home and they make signs that say, no hypnozoids allowed in here. And there was one boy who did an elaborate thing at his house about the hypnozoids. And other kids play games like, I don't want the hypnozoids to win. So if I don't do what I'm asked, someone asks me to do, I lose a point, and hypnozoids get a point. I don't want them to get a point. So these are their ideas that they've come up with. So it's fun to, when it can be followed up with an activity, especially if it's initiated by the child. But one of the activities that we haven't talked about yet is Joseph has a gauntlet on his sleeve. It's got buttons, and the buttons for him in the story, Gretchen helps him access the buttons and says, well, you've got some choices here. And I see the red light is buzzing or flashing because you're feeling out of control and not liking how that feels. I'll give you a little help. Maybe we could just take some deep breaths, and that'll be able to, then you'll be able to think about what to do to be, I'm trying to think about themselves and be able to believe that they can do that and feel good about putting in the using their willpower and using self-regulation to do that hard thing, because we all know ourselves as grown-ups too, how hard it can be. So I do that, but I also give them other kind of swag when I read the book to them. They have a little necklace with a picture of Gretchen in it, and in the story, Gretchen taps on her badge that she's wearing on her uniform. And so I tell the kids if they tap on the badge that Gretchen's wearing, that helps them be able to do hard things, just like Gretchen was able to help Joseph be able to do the same thing. So Gretchen is the who can help access her powers. So we have all kinds of fun activities, plus we've made all kinds of dot to dot. You've made the step-by-step drawing for kids, and they can draw the Hypnozoids, Robojo, and Gretchen, and maybe one other one. And then we've got mazes, all kinds of fun things, just as ways to reinforce the messages in the story, to keep it front of mind for kids. All of that's on the website. And so I hope that people listening will see, oh, there's a lot of resources for kids, but also lots for parents. So I have, in addition to these recordings that we've been doing, there is a lot of information on the website that is just written also, like my thoughts about the story and what parents and teachers can do to help reinforce the messages. But also, I think sometimes for some people, there's a little interpretation of the book needed, which is the great thing about the book, is that it works for all these different kind of situations that I just mentioned that I see with kids are challenging. And so that part is great. And then sometimes I think that it helps for someone to fill in the blanks, to interpret for the reader, to know how to use the book to get the most out of it, because not all the messages are that obvious. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is give that information for people to help them know how to take advantage of the information that's in the book.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if it was done on purpose or again, another like a little happy accident, but the whole middle part of the book is almost kind of like a silent movie. You know, it's just action, and there's really no text, maybe a little bit, very minimal, like that one page where they're looking at the gauntlet, and you know, Gretchen's talking with Joseph, but the few pages before that page and then right afterwards, it's all pretty much just panels of what's happening. And so opened it to an interpretation. You're right. It's just like it's kind of fill in the blanks, and it's like it kind of explains that it provides an opportunity for conversation.
Yes.
And you know, it's like, okay, what do you think is happening here? Like, he's tied up, so what do you think that's all about? And you know, so it just kind of stemmed from there. And then we follow it up in I want to say the third act of the book, where they just kind of wrap it up, and they can see like they kind of summarize everything that's happened in the beginning and in the middle. And then Mom and Joseph have a really nice conversation, just kind of like, hey, well, what did we learn from that? What did we talk about? So
right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. First act, second act, and third act.
Yeah.
You know, that you were talking about conversations, and that's perfect, because it is a way to talk about feelings, to name them, to label them, to talk about, have you felt like this before? And you were talking about the hypno cable wrapping around Robojo, and then there's a picture of Joseph, because Joseph and Robojo are the same in the story. Robojo is like an avatar for Joseph. And I talk with the kids about that's the uncomfortable feelings that they have that they don't like. And they don't want to be in that situation. And then when they are in that situation, just like Robojo didn't know how to get out of it. Joseph didn't know how to get out of it. But Gretchen, otherwise known as Mom, and does know how, because they're the voice of reason. They're the ones who've stayed calm. Those are the ones who are in control and can co-regulate with the child in the story, Joseph in the story, Robojo. And so it being able to talk about those kinds of things, the pictures suggest, let's talk about this. And then also, like you were talking about in part 3, act 3, there's all kinds of opportunities to learn from the mistakes, and the mom helps him through all of that. And then there's the whole imagination, and some kids read the book themselves. Basically, they interpret the story themselves, and they interpret it the way that I would too, and for their own circumstances, and they come up with their own. Well, they have tons of questions, and I need to refer them to you with some of those questions. They're great questions, but clearly their brains are working more like yours than mine with the kind of questions that they ask.
Yeah.
And I love when other kids, when it's that interactive with the kids. And we can also talk about the range of emotions in this story. So it went from, this is great, I'm watching TV, and Gretchen's right here with me, and life is perfect. What could be better? And then it suddenly changes to the big outburst, and then everything kind of in between. So there's all this learning from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum with feelings. So there's conversation around that. And then, of course, Spaceman Sam's in there to talk about, to raise the conversation about how do you manage? What do you do when you have those big feelings? Like, are there warning signs for this that will help you know that you're going to have a difficult time being able to solve this problem? And can you find that feeling in your body where that is happening? And what does that feel like? So that's a big conversation, because kids often don't know what that feeling is. They're not recognizing it. But if I ask them about it, they do know. And they can talk about it. And they actually mostly point to somewhere. You don't have to erase it. We can just start here and try again. That really helps their ability to regulate and keep on going with me, and not feel like that they have to wad up the paper or scribble on it or something. Not always true, but for the majority of the kids, learning to practice and understanding, like, I am better at this. And the best way that I usually have for showing them they've made progress is to show them the work that they did on the first day I met them, and then compare it to the work that they're doing. And they are always, 100% of the time, shocked that the way they were able to perform at the beginning of our time together in comparison to how they were performing today. And they are, because it's so hard. Like, if you say, let's just practice soccer, like, well, they just get better little by little, and they don't even notice that they've gotten better. Same with me. Sometimes I'll practice jump rope with kids, and they don't notice. They can't keep track. They don't keep track, like, oh, I could only do. They can keep track of the number that they jumped each week, but they don't really realize in the process of getting better and better that, oh, it was easier for me today. I see the benefit of doing that. Usually it's stretched out over so much time, it's hard for them to realize until they can jump. And then, like, oh, now I can jump. So all that time in between, they don't seem to realize that that practicing is paying off. So there's a lot to discuss about practice also.
It was funny that you bring that up because in one of my third grade classes, one time I came in and they were saying, well, how do you know so much about computers, Mr. Bauman? And then I said, well, a lot of practice, and I said, well, practice makes perfect. And they all jumped on me as far like, no, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes progress.
Yeah.
And so that's always stuck with me. It's like they're right. It's like you're never going to be perfect. You can make progress, and you can do is the more you practice, the better you're going to be at something. So, and it's kind of like drawing. It's like my drawings a long time ago were horrific, but just keep practicing, and it's like until I kind of found my style and what I like, and I always gravitated towards Charles Schultz and Bill Watterson for Calvin and Hobbes, and so that's like my go-to. It's like if I get stuck on, it's like, well, how do I draw this? It's like I have the whole collection here. Just like okay, well, this is how he did it, so I'll just kind of do my style. So, but yeah, it's just a lot of practice.
Yeah, it's the secret. That speaking of practice, it's been a lot of practice for me too, doing this, because the book is one thing. Like that was a challenge enough for me to identify as a writer and to think that I had something to I think I have something to contribute, but I didn't know how to do that as a writer, as an author, and how to do the whole process of how do I find an illustrator? How do I get the book out on Amazon? How do I find out somebody to edit the book for me? I had no idea the process. And so it's practice. Yes, I've gotten better with my writing the more I've written, but it's also a learning process. So there's processes to learning. And as part of the process, there's a lot of patience required. There's a lot of endurance. Like this has gone on for years for me, and a steep learning curve. And school is a steep learning curve for kids. It's not a gradual up ramp.
Right.
And so I can relate to what it's like for them, because it's a lot to learn something, and sometimes it does feel like much. And at my age, well, I've learned how to use willpower. I've learned the grit that's required. I've learned that how to persevere through something and how to get the help for something that does seem like I don't have any idea how to do this, or nor do I want to do it. I can delegate that to somebody else to help me focus on the things that are important to me. But kids don't have that luxury, so it's a lot harder for them. Certainly, they can't see that far into the future that they would have some of those same kinds of choices in the job that they pick as a career, and still, no matter what job it is, there's tasks that aren't that fun to do, but still have to be done. So I'm trying to build that with kids, because that is reality, that it is hard to do things. And kids, I think that it's pretty much the hardest thing that I support them with is doing things that aren't fun for them.
Right.
And realities that is life, that is part of life. And I think that nobody wants to accept that as the truth, but I think it's really hard for kids to understand that dishes have to be washed and you can use them again tomorrow. And it's not any fun. It's not any fun. It's not reality. It has to be done. And so I think it's just a part of the purpose of the book is to help kids understand that there are hard things. We go through hard things, and we learn feelings about that. And this story is about something that was harder than putting your clothes in the laundry basket. But it is those small things that add up to make them have sort of that muscle for knowing I can get through hard things, and I'm learning to manage the feelings and understand okay, that's one task out of 50 that I've done during the day, and I enjoyed 40 other ones, and one I really didn't like, and the others were like, well, okay, I'll just get through it. But I think it can be hard for kids to see the bigger picture, of course, they're kids. So in the moment, it's kind of put the things on, it feels really difficult for them, whereas things, it's not so much. And So one of the things that I do sometimes with kids, it's almost like the pie chart idea of how do you spend your day. I don't do that exactly, but that sort of idea of here's a task to do. How much of it do you think will be easy for you? How much of it is neutral? How much of it is really hard? Let's focus in. Let's partner on this part that you think is really hard. Let me help support you, scaffold for the skills that you need to be able to do this. I'm here with you, and you can count on me to be able to help you get through this because I see it is really hard. Rather than thinking everything about that is hard, and it's one part of it that's hard. And it's the same with kids come home. I have a hard day, but wait, what part of the day was hard? Let's talk about that. Let's empty your backpack of those feelings of what was hard and resolve it, not unlike in a story, and then learn something from it, and then be ready to tackle it again tomorrow with a new perspective, with some new skills. So that's all those kind of topics are important for kids to be talking about with their parents, with teachers, with therapists. Everybody has it. We'd like to avoid it and not have to do it. But if we address it and say, okay, I'm going to be doing this, and I maybe need help doing it. I maybe need a buddy to do it with me. I maybe need to make it a short period of time, like all kinds of ways to accommodate to make the task doable. But in self-talk affirmations, whatever it is, Gretchen on your necklace, something that helps you know I can do this. It is hard. I can do this, but it's actually not too hard. And so, yeah, it can feel like much. It can feel that way, but there are ways to do it.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person. I mean, I heard an old saying a long time ago: is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's a good one.
You can't wing it. You know, it's like, especially if you want to, you got to set yourself up for success. And by sitting down and taking the time before you go into something, and just how are you going to plan this out? You know, how are we going to do this? And I do that with everything. And it's just a habit. I think I just got it from my dad. You know, he had his own business. And so I learned a lot from him as far as like, okay, so let's sit down. Like, well, how much material do we need? You know, how many guys do we need to do this? How many? So the same thing with, you know, with my drawing. And it's like, how much time do I need? Or, you know, assets. Like when I say assets, it's like, you know, I don't pull everything out of my brain. It's like, I need references. And so it's like, okay, what's this going to look like? What kind of material do we want to have? Like even the cover right there. It's like, with Gretchen and with Joseph, it's like, okay, what kind of costumes are they going to wear? Are they going to shoes? Or are they going to wear boots? I went for more of a 60s Star Trek Lost in Space kind of thing. So that's why they have the silver boots and the gloves and even the gauntlet. I mean, when you were talking about the gauntlet earlier, I like kind of like, I want to say vintage tech. Mm-hmm. So his gauntlet, I didn't want it to be ornate. Like, you know, everyone says gauntlet, you know, the kids know that, you know, Thanos and, you know, the Avengers and in the Marvel movies. It's like very ornate looking gauntlet with where they put the stones in and all the Infinity Stones. Well, I wanted what Joseph had on his gauntlet. I wanted to be tech. And so the whole gauntlet is basically a spread out old camcorder. So it's a Sony camcorder. So I got all the controls and buttons off of an old Sony camcorder that I have. So
I didn't know that. Yeah. So I love these talks.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, Joe, we do have a few people on call that might have some questions. If anybody wants to come off mute, I think you can do that for yourself if you have any questions. And if not, we can maybe wind it up. It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been really fun. Sort of sad to see it go. Like, there's lots more.
I'm looking forward to the next books. We can do this again with the next book.
Yeah, we can do it with Tijuana Mañana, the Anxious Iguana. Yeah, so again, I encourage people who are listening to go on the website, hopskipandajumpahead.com, and then if you go to the tab for books, you'll find all the books that are coming out still and a little bit about each one. And you'll see that there's all kinds of resources that are going to be added onto the website. They're there, but they're just not available yet because the books aren't out yet. But I've provided all kinds of fun activities, just like I did for Mission Control, and going to be similar kinds of things for all the upcoming books. And Joe and I have some for the next book, Tijuana Mañana, de Anxious Iguana, of course, too. And then that's also where the videos are from the past episodes Joe and I have done together, and where the future ones will be with Tijuana. And also there's some other podcasts that I've done there that are about still mission control, but different conversations, of course. And
hey, man, we do have one question.
Oh, well, I didn't see it. Yeah. Oh, what's
in the chat? Great. What is the age range of the book?
So we targeted like 4 to 8, but definitely 10-year-olds. I read it to 10-year-olds. I did ask one of my friend's children, who was 12 at the time, and she said, I don't think I would pick it up and just read it myself, but if somebody wanted to, I could see it being used as an assignment in the classroom from the teacher to dig in, drill down into the themes that are in there. So it definitely, I mean, and I've had adults read that to the kids and say, oh, that was great. I learned something from that. I actually had one adult tell me that she'd been thinking about going back to school and was kind of timid about doing that, hesitant. And she said, hey, if Joseph can do it, I can do it too. I'm going to enroll in school and go back to school again. So it's certainly motivating for adults too. If you read it from, because these messages are in there. They're the same ones. I think of them myself as well. Like when I have to use self-control about things, like I do think of the book and like I should be just like Joseph. I'm telling kids to be like Joseph. I need to be like Joseph too, and just do the hard thing, even though I don't like it. So
right.
Joseph inspires me too. And of course, I always think about Gretchen. Gretchen is my niece's dog, and I known Gretchen for many, many years, and she's just such a personality. So I have a little advantage over others who don't know Gretchen unless they go on Instagram and see some pictures of her. But she's an additional inspiration to me because she's just the happiest little dog I've ever seen, and she's just so friendly and cute and watches everything. And so I thought of her because she takes in everything. And in the book, there's that one scene of her flying out of the rocket ship and surveying the action on the mountainside and figuring out how am I going to tackle this problem. And I just think that's perfect for Gretchen. She's always surveying everything going on around her, monitoring and making sure the other dogs in the family are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and solving all the problems and just keeping on top of everything. I don't know when she ever
right, what a child wants to do, needs to be doing. So it's really enjoyable, catching up with you two and what you've all got here. And like Joe said, I'm looking forward to information on the other books that are, available, and the books up and coming. We're looking forward to 2024, and we're coming on here about doing it, to kind of really keep this capacity going, where folks like Carolyn, asking questions, that we can kind of keep that connection going and get like a little book club going right here in this video format. So just wanted to appreciating it, enjoying it, and looking forward to more.
Thank you so much for hosting us and making it all possible for us, part two. And that is something that I've been talking about with another person about, maybe doing a book club for kids, a book club for the adults, or a book club for parents and kids, or teachers and kids. So I think there's a lot to talk about, because I do my social skills groups, and these are the kind of things we talk. So it's a way to talk about different books and different themes in the books, and things that kids are struggling with, or things that they could help other kids with. So into all kinds of kids, not just the kids who are struggling, but I also am wanting kids to find their higher selves also, and reach out to others who need a little more and be kind to them. So also a huge benefit we actually never talked about. So thank you again, Kurt, so much, and Joe, for being here. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you, Kurt.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. I echo that. Thanks, Stanley, for being ongoing podcast support and doing the podcast engineering or live stream technical team.
That's right. Okay. All right. We'll talk in January. We'll get something going.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Recording stopped.
Okay. So Joe, you're up.